What's the biggest hypocrite you've ever exposed? My name's Carla, and I was 17 when I first met Mrs. Jennings, our school's guidance counselor. Her office had all these posters about kindness and anti-bullying. She talked nonstop about safe spaces and how much she cared about student mental health. Adults loved showing her off during parent nights. I was barely keeping it together back then. Mom worked double shifts at the diner. Dad disappeared when I was 13. I was basically raising my twin brothers, Jake and Tony, while trying not to fail my AP classes. So when Mrs. Jennings asked me to come in after I had a breakdown in calculus, I thought maybe someone actually gave a crap. The first few meetings felt amazing. She gave me breathing exercises, called me strong, even gave me this purple journal with inspirational quotes. I started thinking I finally had someone in my corner. Then one random Monday, I got called to the principal's office. Mrs. Jennings was sitting there with Principal Martinez and the school psychologist. She told them I was emotionally unstable and manipulative, said I had a pattern of crying for attention. She wanted me suspended from track and debate team to focus on mandatory therapy. I just sat there frozen while she twisted everything I'd told her in private. My exhaustion became mood swings. My family stress became anger issues. That one time I said I wished I could disappear became a suicide threat. I went home completely numb, couldn't eat dinner, couldn't help the boys with homework, just laid on my bed staring at the ceiling. It felt like someone had reached inside my chest and ripped everything out. That weekend I was at the library when I overheard these two sophomore girls talking. One said Mrs. Jennings told her mom she was self-harming just because she wore long sleeves. The other said Mrs. Jennings reported her for emotional outbursts after she cried once in her office. Something clicked. I wasn't the only one getting screwed over. I started asking around quietly. Over the next month I found 8 other kids who had similar stories. Beth got kicked off the soccer team for behavioral concerns. Kevin lost his college recommendation letter because of red flags. Amy had therapy forced on her family through insurance without anyone asking if she actually wanted it. Mrs. Jennings wasn't helping us. She was destroying us while pretending to care. I started keeping detailed notes of every conversation. I printed out testimonials from all the kids who got hurt. Then I went to the PTA meeting with a stack of papers. I stood up during open forum and asked every student who'd been mistreated by Mrs. Jennings to come forward. I thought maybe 3 kids would show up. 23 students stood up that night. Parents were furious, some were crying, others were demanding answers. Mrs. Jennings tried saying we were all lying troublemakers, but too many parents recognized their own kids' stories. By Friday, she was on administrative leave pending investigation. Kids, when did you realize your parents might be terminally stupid? I was 13 when I figured out my dad might not be the brightest tool in the shed, but the day that really sealed the deal was this random Tuesday evening when I walked into our kitchen and immediately smelled something that made my eyes water. My little brother Max was already sitting on the floor with a paper plate, fanning himself like crazy and going, "Dude, it smells like rotten eggs mixed with chemicals in here." I thought maybe our dog had gotten into the trash again, but then I saw my dad crouched down next to our old gas stove with a flashlight in one hand and this massive roll of duct tape in the other. "What's going on?" I asked, but I already had this sinking feeling in my stomach. Dad looked up at me all casual and went, "Oh, just found a little gas leak earlier. No big deal though. I'm fixing it right now. Should be good as new in a few minutes." I literally felt my brain stop working for a second. We just had this whole unit in science class about gas leaks and how they could literally blow up entire houses. Like Mrs. Campbell had shown us these videos of explosions and everything. She kept saying how even a tiny spark from static electricity could turn your house into a crater. "Dad, you can't just fix a gas leak," I practically screamed. "You're supposed to call the gas company. We need to get out of here." He rolled his eyes at me like I was being dramatic. "That's exactly what they want you to think so they can charge you $300 for 5 minutes of work. This is basic common sense stuff, kiddo. Watch and learn." Then this man, my own father, started wrapping our gas line with layer after layer of duct tape like he was gift wrapping a present. He even patted it when he was done and said, "There we go, good as new." I was freaking out. Max was still sitting on the floor looking confused, and Mom was upstairs doing laundry like nothing was happening. I knew I had to do something, so I ran next door to our neighbor Paul. He used to be a firefighter before he retired, and everybody on our street knew to ask him about safety stuff. I pounded on his door going, "Paul, emergency! My dad is duct taping a gas leak." Paul's face went completely white. He didn't even grab a jacket, just ran straight over to our house in his slippers and practically dragged all of us outside. He was yelling at my dad the whole time about how we could have all been killed, but Dad just kept arguing that Paul was overreacting. Paul called 911 anyway. Within 20 minutes, we had 3 fire trucks, a gas company van, and half our neighbors standing in the street watching our house like it might explode any second. The fire chief made everyone on our block evacuate while they figured out how bad the leak actually was. Turns out, it was really bad, like deadly bad. The only reason we weren't all dead was because I'd opened all the windows that afternoon to air out the house after Max had burned some popcorn. The gas company guy told us that if Dad had turned on any lights, or if the furnace had kicked on, our house would have been a pile of rubble. But here's the kicker. After all of this, after the fire department, after the evacuation, after finding out we almost died, my dad was still mad. Not at himself for nearly killing his whole family, but at me and Paul for embarrassing him in front of the whole neighborhood. He actually said, "People always overreact to these things." I had it handled. The gas company bill was $800 to properly fix what he'd tried to solve with $2 worth of duct tape.
What happened when you dated someone out of your league? I once dated a guy so attractive strangers literally stopped him for selfies. One day he texted me a schedule of how I should dress tight dresses on Fridays, heels on Saturdays, beach ready Sundays. I thought he was joking until he said, "You're representing me, babe." That was my villain origin story. I wore sweatpants to our next date, ordered chicken wings, licked my fingers, and said, "Still representing you." The waiter nearly dropped the tray laughing. What's the worst part about being a quadruplet? I once matched with a guy on Tinder. We met at a bar, and he froze the second I walked in. Turns out, he had already dated one of my sisters and ghosted her, and he couldn't even figure out which one of us it was. So I leaned in and said, "Careful, you're running out of lives. We've got 3 more." The entire bar overheard and laughed so hard he literally grabbed his coat and ran. What made you realize that your boss was a monster? It was my birthday and the whole office gathered for cake. My boss made a speech about how much she appreciated me, then cut the cake to reveal, "You're fired," written in frosting underneath. She said she wanted to make it memorable and sweet. The worst part, she made me pay for half the cake because it was technically for my benefit.